Excellency Sahle-Work Zewde, the President of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Excellency John Dramani Mahama, former President of Ghana and Chairperson of the Tana Forum, Excellency Moussa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellency Mahdi Mohamad Guled, Deputy Prime Minister of Somalia, Excellency Dr. Joyce Banda, former President of Malawi, Excellency Catherine Samba Panza, former President of the Central African Republic, Excellency Thabo Mbeki, former President of the Republic of South Africa, Excellency Dr. Richard Sesbera, Foreign Affairs Minister, Rwanda, Excellency Honorable General Eli Tumwine, Minister for Security, Uganda, and our host, Dr. Ambechu Mekonnen, who is the Prime Minister of the Amhara region, and Excellency Dr. Gedu Andakachu, who's the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ethiopia. Ambassadors here present, directors of various African Union institutions, honorable members of the African Academy and civil society, you are welcome. I would be remiss if I did not recognize the commissioner. I asked him to introduce himself to our moderator without explanation. Ambassador Chegi, thank you so much for your support. I wanted to practice my Amharic, and I'm not sure why you are laughing. Inkon Dehena Mechu. President Begi would have said, Siana Mugela Lonken, and our brothers from East Africa would have said, what would they have said? Right. Until you discover, I will not let you know. My name is Brian Tamuka Kagoro. We would have said in East Africa, Karibuni Kwetu, which means welcome. And welcome, you're welcome. I want to tell you just a little bit about Tana, and that's presumptuous because looking around the room, most people are veterans of Tana, but sometimes you have to repeat what the house is about so that people are reminded that the culture in this house is different from the usual practice. In this space, so when I was coming here, President Sahle-Work, you know, they were asking me, well, Tana, you're always talking about it, what's Tana? So my answer was, Tana is a place, it's a space, it's an idea and an ideal, it's a journey. It's a place where we encourage former and sitting heads of state to dialogue with African activists and thinkers and partners from the development community, as well as the length and breadth of African bureaucrats about African issues and African solutions. So we do so in an informal setting. I had to go through that whole list of protocols. If I omitted anyone, it is not because the person is not sufficiently important. I think, as you can see, I'm a very shy guy, and I'm feeling a bit nervous, so it was on the list, but I was not able to do it. And this dialogue is about policy making, it's about policy change and policy transformation. Often when persons leave office, like the former heads of state will tell you, they feel freer to talk about issues that may have been too weighty and too sensitive when they were in office. So we do not want to waste that time for deep and wide reflections on very substantive issues. So Tana is not a talk shop. Every Tana we've come to, there's been a report, a research, and evidence that informs what we do. So I'd like you, as we dialogue, please do not make any assumptions that no one understood. In this room, if you were to measure intelligence and capacity in electricity terms, this would have been a power station. So there is no need to over-elaborate. Once you've made your point, I would encourage you to move on. Make no assumptions at all about that. But Tana goes everywhere, Your Excellencies. Tana is here in Badr. Tana has had pre-forums in different places. Tana had an essay competition for young people to engage. Tana holds multi-stakeholder forums. Tana participates in discussions about peace and security outside Africa, and the partners from Munich Security Council are here, and we duly acknowledge them, along with all the other partners of Tana that are in this room. Please let's give them a pam-pam. We also do, as a habit, a book launch. And often some people say, why did you not just launch a book written by an African based in Africa about Africa? The explanation is simple. And the former Chief Justice of Kenya, Dr. William Tunga, said, the approach of pragmatic Pan-Africanists is to indigenize knowledge. That means rely on your own. Number two, to make sure that borrowed knowledge is not inorganically fixed. But number three, to diversify your sources of knowledge. That means draw from the experiences of other people so that your own is not recreating or reinventing the wheel. So that's why we do it. But Tana is about leadership and citizenship. That's why we launch it with the leadership lecture. And that implied in the leadership lecture is the responsibility of citizenship that enables all of us not only to sacrifice and serve, but to innovate and transform. But Tana is about Pan-Africanism and internationalism. It's about our lens. It's about our ideas and consciousness. It's about our narrative, our aspirations, and our solutions. So, now that you know what Tana is about, we're going to get into the meat of the discussion. For those who are going to be speakers, we're using a card system. You will have right in front of you and to the side somebody who will, when your time is almost up, wave, let me call it an amber card, because now if I say yellow, if it is not yellow, a speaker will continue speaking. So it's a card that looks almost yellow, almost like that. That means please get ready to stop. And red is not a sign of danger. It simply means you have ended, but you have not yet finished. And our first panel is a very exciting panel. It is the opening panel of the forum. And the reason why we call it the opening forum is that we have an outstanding moderator for this session. Dr. Eleni Gabre-Madhin is the CEO and founder of Blue Moon Ethiopia. And she founded Ethiopia's first youth agribusiness incubator and seed investing platform. Prior to that, she led LLC, the African leader. She's an African leader in designing commodity exchange and ecosystem based on a groundbreaking work with high acclaimed Ethiopian community exchange program. She's also a globally recognized thought leader, an agricultural markets and African development thinker, and she has been one of the top 5 global women of impact on development and was named Africa's top pioneer, innovator, and entrepreneur by Wharton Business School. Was among Newsweek's 125 global women of impact and among 100 most influential Africans named among 100 most influential Africans by the New Africa magazine in 2012. But before she comes in, I'm going to remind you that the reason why we're here, we all believe in the rule of law, and the test that all of us are going to face is that, unlike in most of our countries, on this panel we're going to see young people in power as your moderators, women in power, We're going to see old people in power. And the test for those of you who are brilliant is to see how you subordinate yourself to the collective will and interest. So if you are given 15 minutes and you're tempted to talk for 20 minutes, remember that there is separation of powers at Tana. You may be of higher rank outside, but inside, the rank of moderator is equivalent to the rank of either the judiciary. So we want to see how the executive and the academic and the civil society will subordinate itself to rule of law. In the participation, there will be deliberate attempt to include everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, help me to welcome Dr. Eleni to the stage and wish you the best of deliberations.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tana Forum. Excellencies, distinguished guests, all protocols observed. As Brian has very aptly put, we are in a moment of reflection. I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather be this morning than here on the banks of Lake Tana to have this conversation on a subject quite removed from what I normally do, which is work with youth below the age of 29 on innovations to transform Ethiopia and beyond. So with that said, all protocols observed. I won't go down the list that Brian has already expressed, but please accept my own welcome to Tana Forum and to this day of reflection. And with that, I will first ask, before we go into the panel that will come to the stage of our very distinguished guests, I will first ask His Excellency, our host, the President of Amhara Region, Dr. Ambacho Makonnen, to come and give us a statement. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Her Excellency Ambassador Sahle-Work, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Excellencies, Heads of States and Governments, Honorable Ministers and Ambassadors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the government and the people of the state of Amhara, it is my honor and joy to welcome you all to the city of Bahir Dar and invite you to feel at home and enjoy the delights of Ethiopia. Welcome to Bahir Dar again. The people and the state of Amhara National Regional State are so grateful and thankful to your presence, commitment, and upholding of the spirit of the Tana High-Level Security Forum. We, at the State of Amhara government, are very delighted for hosting the Tana High-Level Forum on Security in Africa. I'm also personally happy for joining you at this forum for the first time. I sincerely believe that Bahir Dar, the capital city of Amhara National Regional State, is honored for being chosen as a host city to the Tana High-Level Security Forum. Bahir Dar is the city where the Blue Nile River, the longest river of the world, starts its journey from Lake Tana to the Mediterranean Sea. The city is one of the fastest growing and tourist destination cities in Ethiopia. The Amhara National Regional State's diverse investment opportunities and the presence of Ethiopia's marvelous cultural and natural tourism heritage sites in the state, including the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, the castles of Gondar, the scenic beauty of the Semien Mountains, the islands and monasteries of Lake Tana, and the Blue Nile waterfalls and others, enabling Bahir Dar to attract more conferences, investments, and tourists. Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Tana Forum is an innovative and broad-based venue founded with the aim of playing a crucial role in bringing about sustainable peace and contributing to the implementation of the African Union Tripoli Declaration of August 2009. The AIS Tana High-Level Forum on Security in Africa is happening at a critical moment when democratic changes are taking place in Ethiopia and the Horn of African countries. Regional peace building and collaboration initiatives are giving hope to all people, loving people of the world, peace-loving people of the world. We hope the AIS Tana Forum discussion on the theme of political dynamics in the Horn of Africa, nurturing the emerging peace trends, will have a great contribution to strengthening the positive political development and peace-building initiatives in the Horn of Africa. Your Excellency, the President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, wishing every success to this forum, once again, I would like to extend my heartfelt welcome to Bahir Dar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I think you have excited us about staying a bit longer than just today and exploring all those wonderful places you mentioned, and especially to our guests to make Bahir Dar and Ethiopia your next tourist destination. So with that, I am going to have a very great honor to welcome my president and the first female president of Ethiopia and the only woman president in Africa today, Her Excellency, Madame Sahle-Work Zewde. Eleni.
Thank you very much, Eleni. Mr. John Dramani Mahama, former President of Ghana and Chairman of Tana Board. Mr. Moussa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission. The Deputy Prime Minister of the Federal Republic of Somalia. Former heads of states present here, and I would recognize President Thabo Mbeki and my two sisters, the former presidents of Central African Republic and Malawi, two countries that I know well. Dr. Ambacho Mekonnen, President of the Amhara Regional State. Foreign ministers, ministers present here, ambassadors, representative of the United Nations, and regional organizations, and most of all, many friends present in this room, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to add also my voice to the one of Dr. Ambacho in welcoming you all to Bahir Dar. Thank you for being here in numbers, but also in quality. It feels great to see many familiar faces, friends, as well as newcomers. I'm personally very happy to be back to this beautiful city of Bahir Dar to attend the 8th edition of the Tana Forum, a forum I know well for having attended all past editions except I think one or two. Michelle would know. I did so because I believed in the candid dialogue and in-depth exchange, in the interaction and consultation with a broad-based African constituency on issues on security and challenges faced by the continent towards Africa-centered solutions that Tana is known for. And I still continue believing in the spirit of Tana. It gives me a great opportunity to thank those who contributed relentlessly to bring Tana to this high level. And I would like to recognize here President Mbeki and of course President Obasanjo, who I think is not present here today. My appreciation goes to all those who have been involved in organizing this edition of the forum. And I'll start by commending the leadership of President Mahama and members of his board, IPSS and its leadership, Dr. Kidane and Michel Ndiaye, their team, the municipality of Bahir Dar city, a city we have seen growing and changing over the years. Its inhabitants for their warm welcome and traditional hospitality we have been enjoying every year. This forum is taking place at a time when the Horn of Africa is passing through dramatic changes, changes that have rekindled a sense of hope and optimism for the peoples of the region. However, the region also continues to face many challenges, a shifting regional and international geopolitical landscape. It is therefore in this context that we are discussing the political dynamics in the Horn of Africa with a view to understanding the emerging trends and provide timely and appropriate responses aimed at promoting peace and stability and creating favorable conditions for unleashing the region's potential for economic growth and prosperity. One of the major changes that has happened in the region, and I think a very important one, is the one that took place right here in Ethiopia. Today, our country has embarked in a huge transformation process in an inclusive path in addressing the many challenges that we are facing. We have had remarkable achievements so far. One of the things that I would like to mention here is that not later than yesterday or the day before, we celebrated the Press Freedom Day in Addis Ababa, when we know that a year ago, our country was ranked at the bottom of the Press Freedom Index. I think this is a testimony to for a country which has come from very far. I think this is a context that we are evolving in. But of course, a lot remains to be done, and this is the focus of the government currently. In these turbulent times, it was indeed good news that frozen conflicts in the Horn came to an end, setting in motion a new era of relations between and among countries in the region. The normalization or rapprochement between Ethiopia and Eritrea not only ended the long-standing no war, no peace situation between our two countries, but heralded a new era of regional peace and stability in the Horn. This normalization is also going beyond Ethiopia and Eritrea and reaching out to all other countries in the Horn. These positive developments have certainly opened doors to opportunities that need to be addressed adequately in a sustainable manner. With the change, there is a renewed dynamism for accelerating regional integration within the sub-region by further strengthening the infrastructure links and cementing people-to-people relation. This is an imperative for the region to fully utilize its potentials and enormous opportunities. the signing of the revitalized peace agreement between the South Sudanese parties renewed optimism for ending the South Sudanese conflict. With almost 8 months now that guns were largely silenced. There are indeed delays in meeting some of the timelines and benchmarks which underscore the challenges that lay ahead. But I cannot agree more than with what the Secretary General of the United Nations said, and I quote, "The revitalized agreement is currently the best and only option for a political solution to the conflict in South Sudan," end of quote. That is why the international community has no other alternative than to support the parties to live up to their commitments and implement the agreement. I'm happy to note that the different parties to the agreement have agreed 2 days ago to extend the pre-transitional period to implement pending issues for another 6 months, which I hope will be used wisely and with a sense of urgency. We also commend the government of the Republic of South Sudan for showing its commitment by allocating $100 million to expedite implementation of the agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, while there is euphoria with the wind of change blowing across our region, we cannot overlook the many challenges that still persist. We have a lot of work to do in addressing our internal vulnerabilities by focusing on governance and socioeconomic challenges to meet the needs and aspirations of our peoples. As much as our youthful population is a potential resource for us to reap in the demographic dividend, any failure on our part to give them a sense of hope and future will be indeed a source of instability. In this context, we have all been following closely the unfolding situation in neighboring Sudan. That the Transitional Military Council has committed itself to handing over power to a civilian government is encouraging, and we very much hope that all Sudanese political actors will work together in good faith and engage in a meaningful political dialogue to overcome the current challenges. The peace and stability of the Sudan is no doubt closely intertwined to that of the Horn of Africa, and we in the region have the duty to stand in support and solidarity of this sisterly nation as it strives to ensure a peaceful transition to meet the needs and aspirations of its peoples. Allow me to shift to another language, which is closer to me. Mesdames et messieurs, au niveau régional, les nouvelles dynamiques géopolitiques sont essentiellement en train de transformer la Corne de l'Afrique et la mer Rouge en un seul espace géopolitique avec des implications importantes. La question est comment maximiser les bénéfices pour la coopération en répondant aux défis communs et minimiser les menaces possibles. Il est encourageant de voir que des discussions ont déjà commencé dans le cadre de l'IGAD et de l'Union africaine, et j'espère que ces discussions vont aider à définir l'avenir. Au niveau global, il est devenu de plus en plus clair qu'on est entré dans une ère qui nous rappelle malheureusement la période de la guerre froide, avec un multilatéralisme qui aujourd'hui commence à faire défaut face aux problèmes de paix et de sécurité dans le monde. Comment peut-on apprendre de l'histoire et prévenir que la Corne de l'Afrique ne devienne encore une fois un autre théâtre géopolitique pour les compétitions des grandes puissances? Les intérêts des pays de la région ne seront pas préservés s'ils se retrouvent tous dans une rivalité géopolitique, mais plutôt dans une symbiose pour travailler ensemble afin de trouver des solutions aux défis nationaux et régionaux. C'est pourquoi il est important d'avoir un engagement proactif beaucoup plus accru avec l'IGAD et notre organisation continentale, l'Union africaine. Il y a aussi d'autres défis auxquels nous allons faire face dans les mois à venir. Cet important forum va nous permettre de réfléchir sur ces questions aussi importantes qui nécessitent une compréhension plus adéquate des dynamiques politiques changeantes dans la région et comment les menaces peuvent être maîtrisées et une coopération solide forgée afin de produire les résultats souhaités pour une paix et une prospérité durable dans la région. Nous attendons dans la région. Permettez-moi de changer de langue pour la dernière fois, puisqu'on me dit qu'il y a une traduction de l'amharique vers les deux autres langues étrangères. Je terminerai en amharique. በድጋሚ ለጣና ፎረም አዘጋጆች ለባህር ዳር ከተማ አስተዳደርና ሕዝብ ለአማራ ብሔራዊ ክልላዊ መንግስት ለተደረገልን መስተንግዶ በድጋሚ ለማስመስገን እወዳለሁ። የዚህ የጣና ፎረም በባህር ዳር ከተማ መካሄድ ለተሳታፊዎች ለእኛ ለሁላችንም ለነፃና ጥልቀት ላለው ውይይት የሚሆን ጥሩ ሁኔታን ከመፍጠሩም ባሻገር የከተማው ብሎም የክልሉ ወጣቶች ከዚህ ለቀጠናችንና ለመላው አህጉራችን ጠቃሚ ከሆነ ሰላምና መረጋጋት ጋር ከሚያተኩረው መድረክ ብዙ እንደሚማሩ ተስፋ አደርጋለሁ። የወደፊቱ የሀገራችንና የአህጉራችን እጣ ፈንታ በእጃቸው ላይ ነውና። Now I'm concluding by wishing you all a fruitful deliberation and an enjoyable stay in Bahir Dar. Thank you very much. አመሰግናለሁ።
Thank you very much, Madame la Présidente. May I ask that Her Excellency, Madame President, please take a seat here, and I will also invite His Excellency, the African Union Chairperson, to also take a seat before I introduce him, as well His Excellency, the Deputy Prime Minister of the Federal Republic of Somalia, also, yes. And then finally also the Chairperson of Tana Forum and former President of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani, please also come. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue our deliberation on the theme of the 8th Tana Forum, which is political dynamics in the Horn of Africa, nurturing the emerging peace trends, and as was very eloquently and in 3 languages expressed by our Ethiopian president, this is really a momentous time in Ethiopia and in the region, and I think all eyes are on the Horn of Africa right now. And as I told you, I work with young people for a living. That's my day job. And what they are doing and thinking and what we are saying here is critical. So I want to make sure that I have a message to take back to those young people that will ask me on Monday where I spent my weekend and where I will share with them what I learned. And for that, now it is my great honor and pleasure to invite His Excellency Monsieur Moussa Faki Mahamat, the African Union Chairperson, African Union Commission Chairperson, to kindly deliver the keynote address. Monsieur Faki, vous êtes le bienvenu.
Merci, Madame. Excellency Sahle-Work Zewde, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Excellencies, former Head of State and Government, Honorable Ministers, Ambassadors and representatives of regional and international organizations, Mr. President of the Amhara Region State, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure to address the opening of this 8th edition of Tana Forum, devoted to the examination of the political dynamics in the Horn of Africa and the nurturing of its emerging peace trends. At a time of far-reaching changes in the region, one could not have thought of a more fitting theme for this year's forum. This gives us a timely platform to take stock of current developments, exchange ideas on how to sustain the existing momentum, and make concrete recommendations on the way forward. I would like to express appreciation to the authorities of the Amhara region state for their warm welcome on these peaceful shores of Lake Tana. I am equally grateful to the government of Ethiopia for its long-standing commitment to our union's agenda and support to the Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, the ongoing developments in the Horn of Africa are by any measure historical. They represent a tectonic shift in an environment where some of the existing conflicts seemed frozen. Today, the situation in the Horn of Africa has changed out of all recognition. This is a region infused with a new spirit of hope. We are in a truly pivotal period with few precedents in our recent history. Let me take this opportunity to once more extend my congratulations to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. I welcome his ambitious reform agenda in Ethiopia, as well as his courageous decision to reach out to Eritrea, bringing to an end a tragic 20 period of conflict and hostility. Similarly, I would like to renew my congratulations to President Asias Afwerki for receiving his offer of peace with open arms. Indeed, it takes courage to set aside decades of mistrust and move towards reconciliation. The momentum generated by the reconciliation between Eritrea and Ethiopia contributed to the resumption of relations between Djibouti and Eritrea. In South Sudan, the IGAD-led revitalization process holds the promise to bring to an end the untold suffering visited upon the South Sudanese people. As we convene here, historic developments are taking place in Sudan. In line with its relevant instruments, the African Union has clearly pronounced itself in favor of a consensual and civilian-led transition. Such a transition will make it possible to meet the aspiration of the Sudanese people and lay a solid foundation for the democratic transformation of Sudan. These opportunities should be seized. Sudan's stability and prosperity matter for the entire continent. Finally, mention should be made of Somalia, which continues to make steady progress towards peace and reconciliation. Ladies and gentlemen, over the past 2 decades, the African Union and its predecessor, the Organization of African Unity, have been actively involved in the search for solutions to the myriad challenges facing the Horn of Africa. 18 years ago, the OAU facilitated the signing of the Algiers agreements with the view of promoting lasting peace between Eritrea and Ethiopia. I'm glad to note that this objective is now being achieved. There are few countries in the continent in which the African Union has invested as much as it did in Sudan. It has been and remains at the forefront of continental solidarity with Sudan. Our union was indeed the first to deploy peacekeepers in Sudan. It convened peace talks and took major steps to help address the structural causes of conflict and instability in Sudan, including through the high-level panel chaired by former President Thabo Mbeki. Thank you, Your Excellency, for your dedication. In addition, the African Union is supporting the ongoing negotiations among the Sudanese stakeholders to help chart a consensual way forward for the transition. In Somalia, the African Union launched its largest peace support operation to date through the sacrifices of its uniformed and civilian personnel. AMISOM has written one of the most glorious pages of African peace endeavors. AMISOM has also given rise to a creative partnership between the African Union and the United Nations, the European Union, and others. Given the linkages between the various challenges confronting the Horn of Africa, the African Union for many years now has advocated for a regional and multidimensional approach. Concrete action is being taken in this regard. It is worth mentioning here the October 27 Khartoum meeting on peace, security, stability, development, and cooperation in the Horn, organized by the African Union in collaboration with IGAD. Its conclusions continue to serve as the basis for ongoing work of the high-level implementation panel on this issue. This undertaking also covers the relationship with the non-African countries that are riverain of the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea. Here is a common space that should be managed in a way that forces security, stability, and development, especially in view of the adverse impact that extra-regional rivalries can have on the Horn, as unfortunately illustrated by recent developments in Somalia. Clearly, there is a shared future between these countries and our continent. I am convinced that we can rely on the leadership of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi of Egypt to reinforce these ties and help ground them in clear principles. President al-Sisi is the chairperson of our union, and his country has the dual quality of being both Arab and African and on the shores of the Red Sea. The Afro-Arab Summit, planned in Saudi Arabia this November, offers a unique opportunity in this respect. Let me shift also to French. Mesdames, Messieurs, il est clair que la situation dans la Corne de l'Afrique évolue favorablement. Rendre cette évolution irréversible exige une vision à long terme, une forte volonté politique et une démarche fondée sur le consensus le plus large possible. De façon pratique, plusieurs questions se posent à nous. Comment consolider les acquis obtenus? Comment surmonter les nombreux défis qui nous attendent? Comment assurer que l'espoir soulevé n'est pas trahi? Je voudrais hasarder quelques éléments de réponse, je dirais plutôt de réflexion. Premièrement, il me semble nécessaire d'approfondir la confiance retrouvée au niveau des relations bilatérales, de l'élargir à l'ensemble de la région et de s'assurer que les progrès accomplis sont institutionnalisés à travers les arrangements régionaux existants. À cet égard, il importe d'œuvrer de façon acharnée au renforcement de l'IGAD et de son rôle. Deuxièmement, nous devons renouveler notre attachement à la démocratie, au respect des droits de l'homme et à la bonne gouvernance. Ces valeurs qui sont énoncées par l'acte constitutif de l'Union africaine sont la garantie dans la durée de la stabilité et de la paix. Nombre d'États africains, y compris dans la Corne de l'Afrique, connaissent des problèmes internes fragilisant leur stabilité et cohésion nationale. L'IGAD a un rôle vital à jouer dans la promotion et le respect de toutes ces valeurs. Troisièmement, l'Afrique a beaucoup à gagner du respect du droit international et du multilatéralisme, surtout au regard des circonstances qui sont présentement les nôtres. Cet engagement est d'autant plus crucial que nous observons ailleurs dans le monde une montée de l'approche transactionnelle des relations internationales fondée sur une conception étroite de ce qu'est l'intérêt national avec un impact négatif sur l'Afrique. Nous devons, me semble-t-il, œuvrer sans relâche au renforcement du rôle des Nations Unies et du multilatéralisme dans la recherche de solutions durables aux défis globaux de l'heure. De façon plus spécifique, la région, avec le soutien de l'Union africaine, pourrait envisager l'organisation d'interactions régulières avec les autres pays de la mer Rouge. L'objectif, ce faisant, serait de convenir des voies et moyens les meilleurs pour bâtir un partenariat étroit basé sur des intérêts réciproques et sur des principes clairs. Quatrièmement, nous devons mobiliser toutes les ressources intellectuelles nécessaires en appui à notre action. Dans leur déclaration de Tripoli de 2009 sur l'élimination de conflits en Afrique et la promotion de la paix, les dirigeants africains se sont engagés à renforcer la capacité de nos universités, de nos instituts de recherche pour qu'ils soient plus à même d'explorer la nature des conflits en Afrique, d'identifier les facteurs qui contribuent à la réussite des efforts de règlement des conflits et les causes des échecs, et partant de formuler des recommandations permettant d'arriver à des solutions proprement africaines, tenant compte de l'expérience particulière qui est la nôtre. Le Forum de Tana, qui est né de la prise de conscience de l'instauration et la pérennisation de la paix, est aussi une entreprise intellectuelle, que la paix est aussi une entreprise intellectuelle et particulièrement bien placée pour relever ce genre de défis. Mesdames, Messieurs, soudainement, permettez-moi le terme, notre ambition de faire taire les armes semble être à portée de main. Il n'est en effet pas dit qu'un tel objectif doit nécessairement être un rêve impossible à réaliser. Comme le montre amplement l'évolution de la situation dans la Corne de l'Afrique, cette ambition est parfaitement réalisable dès lors qu'il existe la volonté politique requise. Je vous remercie de votre aimable attention.
Merci Votre Excellence, cher de l'Union africaine, de la Commission de l'Union africaine, M. Moussa Faki Mahamat, pour vos remarques vraiment éloquentes et aussi pondérées et des réflexions que je puisse porter à mes jeunes, comme j'ai dit tout à l'heure. And now it is my great pleasure to invite His Excellency Mr. Mahdi Mohamad Guled, Deputy Prime Minister of the Federal Republic, Democratic Republic of Somalia.
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Kibirt, President Sahle-Work Zewde. يتكبروا يا أفريقيا دريتشيت وانا هلافي منستروج دبلوماتيوج عندهم لروج يتانا فورم تساتافيوج كبراتنا كبران بملو إنكوان بسلام بداجو. At least that is my little Amharic that I can compensate with not speaking French. Your Excellency President Sahle-Work Zewde, His Excellency Chandrama Mahama, the Chairperson of Tana Forum, Excellency the Chairperson of African Commission, Moussa Faki Mohamad, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me at the outset convey greetings and apologies of His Excellency President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, who would very much have liked to be here today, but due to other exigencies of work, has requested me to represent him. I also would like to register my appreciation for the warm and brotherly welcome my delegation and I received since our arrival to this beautiful city of Bahir Dar. Somalia appreciates the opportunity to participate in this important debate on political dynamics in the Horn of Africa, nurturing the emerging peace. As the country at the tip of the Horn, and which has been afflicted by a long period of conflict and insecurity, we recognize the critical importance of peace and security. May I also confirm that despite the many challenges, the people of Somalia, and indeed the region, are very optimistic today for a better future and brighter future. In Somalia, thanks to the international and regional support, the war against violent extremism and terrorism is slowly but surely being won. After decades of devastating conflict, the dividends of years of institutional building are beginning to mature. Constitutional changes, now under review, that established federalism, coupled with successive peaceful elections that saw 3 orderly transfer of power over the past 15 years, and vibrant parliamentary engagements have all engendered healthy political atmosphere, which supports the nascent democracy in the country. The administration of President Farmajo is working hard to deepen the peace and security architecture and strengthen the organs responsible for law and order, while at the same time expanding and improving the reach of social services to support resilience of the population. Our largely young and youthful population is supporting the government and law enforcement agencies to secure the country and their own future. These national efforts, gratefully supported by our international partners, are set to have greater impact on a result of the positive cooperation the leaders of our region are forging. Over the past year, heads of states and governments have exchanged warm and fruitful visits. These visits have rekindled the brotherly and sisterly relationships that have for generations existed between the peoples of the Horn of Africa. By building trust and cooperation instead of futile competition, our region will be able to better target and share the limited resources for the well-being of the people. The Horn of Africa region has been cooperating on matters of peace and security, which is a prerequisite for stability and without which economic integration will be hampered. It's now time to invest in economic infrastructural linkages and improve the networks of roads, rails, ports, and telecommunication and energy as well. Somalia and even other parts of the region lack many critical infrastructure, including energy access and distribution, water, and roads networks. The long coastline of Somalia has many deep natural harbors that would be ideal for both intra-regional and external trading. Development of these ports would be a boon for the region, and the government is keenly promoting port and related infrastructural investments. But we are fully aware that building the physical infrastructure necessary for interconnectedness is a costly undertaking that requires sourcing of adequate funds. Critical for the region, and especially my country, is how to tap innovative ways and means of raising affordable funds to promote development necessary for effective integration. We believe with the determined commitments of our leaders and the strategic importance of the region, improved cooperation in the Horn of Africa can and will be realized to enhance peace and fast-track sustainable growth and development for the region and the whole of Africa. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, lest I paint only a rosy picture, we are fully aware of the inextricable link between peace and security and sustainable development. Somalia and some of the other countries in the region continue to be ranked amongst the lowest in the global poverty index. The impact of the climate change, environmental degradation, and widening desertification continues to worsen resource use conflicts and the vicious cycle of poverty. Somalia has in the past produced some of the highest numbers of refugees in the region, and even today, hundreds of thousands of vulnerable communities are displaced within the country due to the effects of frequent droughts and flash floods. Climate impacts erode resilience and expose communities to exploitation of illicit criminal activities. Climate impacts produce climate change refugees. That is why the continent should remain steadfast in the demand for the implementation of the Paris Agreement in order to limit temperature increases and to support adaptation actions in our vulnerable countries. Excellencies, the externalities limiting peace, security, and sustainable development is not limited to climate change. The drivers and triggers of conflict in Africa have been analyzed separately. Competing external interests that practice centuries-old divide and rule tactics to foment conflicts and promote separatist agendas also contribute significantly to pushing us back. It is important that Africa and our continental institutions remain vigilant and true to our founding philosophies and principles captured in the Constitutive Act. Ladies and gentlemen, this summit also comes at a time of geopolitical turmoil when the rules-based multilateral order is changing. Somalia, and I believe the rest of the continent, has benefited from multilateralism. The growth of populist and nationalistic agenda around the world has not been encouraging, and it seems the African race may be on the receiving end. Therefore, we should stand firm to reaffirm our commitment to the multilateral rules-based system as a cornerstone for international peace and security. Finally, Excellencies, the annual Tana Forum on Security in Africa is a great opportunity for us to transparently and collectively seek to foster stability and sustainable peace. I therefore end by commending the government of Ethiopia and Her Excellency President Sahle-Work for bringing us together for this important dialogue. Amasaganalu. I thank you all.
I understand that His Excellency Chairperson Moussa Faki Mahamat will need to leave, so we will bid him farewell and then continue with our session. To continue, a few years ago, I had the very great pleasure of being on a platform with our next speaker as we launched the project to establish the Ghana Commodity Exchange. So I want to say a special akwaba to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, former President of the Republic of Ghana and the Chairperson of the Tana Forum. And His Excellency will be presenting the State of Peace and Security in Africa report, something we all want to hear about. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And let me welcome all of you, add my voice to welcome all of you to the Tana Forum, which continues to be the foremost think tank on peace and security in Africa, with our symbol, the baobab. The baobab tree is considered in Africa the tree of wisdom, and it's normally found in the center of our villages and communities, and that is where the elders of our communities sit to think about the progress and welfare of those communities. And so let me warmly welcome you to Bahir Dar and add my words to our host, the President of the region. Her Excellency, Madam President Sahle-Work Zewde, President of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Her Excellency Dr. Banda, former President of Malawi, Her Excellency Catherine Samba-Panza, former President of the Central African Republic, my comrade and friend, His Excellency Thabo Mbeki, former President of South Africa, His Excellency Mohamad, Guled, Deputy Prime Minister of Somalia, who just gave us a very thought-provoking talk. His Excellency Moussa Faki Mahamat, who's just left, AU Chairperson. Honorable General Eli Tumwini, Minister for Security of Uganda, His Excellency Dr. Richard Sezibara, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Rwanda, His Excellency Dr. Gedu Andagachu, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, His Excellency Ambassador Mekonnen, President of the Amhara region, Ambassador Chegui, who has always been generous to us and being a permanent fixture at these fora. His Excellency Mahamat Saleh, Head of MINUSMA, Ms. Bintu Keita, Assistant Secretary General for Africa at the United Nations, and His Excellency Molefi, Minister of Presidential Affairs of Botswana, and indeed all distinguished guests who have come here. Let me just quickly take the opportunity as chair of Tana to thank our partners and our funders, without whom this forum would be impossible. I'd like to thank, first of all, the Ethiopian government for the support they continue to give to Tana as the host of this forum. I'd like to thank our partner, the AU Commission. Unfortunately, the president has just left. I had the opportunity to say thank you personally anyway, but all of you who hear it can tell him again that I publicly acknowledge the support of the AU Commission. We want to thank the Sheraton Addis and the Blue Nile Resort Hotel, who are our hosts, giving us the beautiful hospitality that we're enjoying. And there are many governments I must thank. The government of Germany have been very generous to the Tana Forum. The government of Switzerland, the government of Australia, the government of Austria, the government of Belgium, the government of Canada, the government of Norway, the government of New Zealand, the Amhara region, the president has just gotten up, the government of Denmark, the U.S. Institute for Peace, our private sector partners, including the Brenhurst Foundation, the Dangote Group, the EASE Consulting, and Ernst and Young. These are all companies and governments that have been very generous to Tana. My job is not a very difficult one, but I'll try to be as brief as possible. I'm supposed to present the key highlights of the state of peace and security in Africa. It's published for the previous year, so this is Peace and Security in Africa in 2018, but of course it's published in 2019. I'm sure all of you have seen the electronic copies of this report and probably would have read it. I'll just touch on the key highlights because of constraints of time so that we can move on to other things. The tendency in past reports has been to focus on casualties and effects and impacts of armed groups, mostly in respect of conflicts. But in the 2018 report, you see a more wider focus on other issues of peace and security that have to do more with adverse effects of climate change, for example, and then also the outbreak of communicable diseases and public health issues. As you know, currently ongoing, there's still a battle with Ebola in the DRC, and it is our hope that it will be contained. You remember a few years ago, West Africa was hit by Ebola, and it took quite a lot of effort from the whole international community to be able to overcome it. In the year 2018, we saw positive developments on the continent in respect of peace and security. And these include, as has been mentioned already by Her Excellency the President, the existing rapprochement that has been established between Ethiopia and Eritrea. The whole of Africa is standing in solidarity with the two countries to be able to resolve the age-old Cold War that has existed between the two. And it's our belief that this rapprochement will bring a new wave of change in the whole of the Horn of Africa. And we believe establishing peace in the Horn of Africa will lead to tremendous human progress and development. This is coming at a time when Ethiopia itself is undertaking deep political and democratic reforms, and all of us stand in solidarity with this country. In the course of the year, 27 African countries, according to the report, held elections and saw successful transfers of power. It shows that democracy is becoming entrenched on the African continent. There was the expansion of space for civil society engagement, and so more civil society groups sprang up and participated in respect of pushing for issues of good governance. There was also increased participation of young people in politics and governance. In many countries, we saw young people standing for elective office and winning, entering parliaments or local councils and other places. This is a significant development, and we wish that this will be encouraged so that more the youth participate actively in the way their countries are governed. Significant steps were taken towards trade and free movement of people. And so, as you are aware, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement was signed. And it is hoped that in July this year, the implementation of this agreement would start. There's a lot of hope that this will lead to increased trade between African countries and lead to a win-win situation where countries would benefit from the comparative advantages that they have. Ladies and gentlemen, various conflicts at the war level continued at the same intensity, but some progress was made on others. South Sudan is an example. We are all holding bated breath, hoping that the peace, the ceasefire that has been in effect will continue and that it will lead to lasting peace within South Sudan. Of course, Somalia, we'll hear a lot more about Somalia, and we also take note of other issues taking place in the Horn of Africa that are captured in the report as civil unrest. 2018 saw a lot of civil unrest in many countries, and the report actually says that no African country was spared some form of unrest. But of course, the degree of violence or rioting that characterized these unrest differed from country to country. In some countries, it was more violent, and coercive forces of the state, the military and the police, had to be brought out to quell these riots and civil unrest, sometimes leading to casualties. And so that's something we need to note. The triggers behind these unrest that we're seeing in several countries include mainly bread and butter issues. As a result of world events, as a result of inflation and several other effects within various countries, costs of food and basic services are going up, and the people take to the streets to protest the high cost of living, and sometimes these turn violent. The gender dimension in respect of peace and security was noted, and it was noted again very sadly that women continue to bear the brunt of insecurity on the African continent. They are victims of rape, kidnapping, and death. And the areas around Lake Chad Basin area were mentioned, and also in Central African Republic, where some militia fighters attacked, kidnapped, and mass raped women. These are noted in the report. It also notes the abduction of another 110 girls in Nigeria. Our information is that after negotiations with the insurgent groups, many of these girls were returned, but we know that of the original Chibok girls, many of them still remain missing, and it's a very unpleasant environment for young girls who just want to go to school and get an education in that part of Nigeria. The report covering 2018 had 6 broad cross-cutting themes, and I'll just go quickly through them. One was on corruption, social policy, and protest, which I just talked about. The other was on political liberalization and election hotspots. The third was on adverse climate change, conflict, and forced migration. And the fourth was on managing resource wars amongst farmers and pastoralists. This is becoming an increasing problem. As population grows in Africa, you have pastoralists and you have agriculturists. And while the pastoralists are looking for increased space to graze their cattle, they come into conflict with farmers whose crops are destroyed. This is becoming manifest especially in some parts of middle and northern Nigeria, where constant clashes between these two groups continue to happen. We also have violent extremism and terrorism, which is becoming an increasing threat in the Sahel region and spreading into some of the savanna regions of Africa. And also how the cyberspace is becoming the new epicenter of warfare. So these are all issues noted in the report. Different solutions and different efforts have been undertaken to try and contain these challenges of peace and security, and these have yielded different outcomes. The report finally deals with issues of how major events that occur in other parts of the world are continuing to have far-reaching implications for peace and security in Africa. And this year, the report drew attention to 6 of such global developments. And you may be welcome to add your own. These developments are not exhaustive. And Africa is a part of this world, and so it will continue to be impacted by what happens outside the continent. And I'll just rush quickly through the 6. One is the rise of far-right political parties and pro-nationalist movements in Europe. We need to take note of. 2 is the, I don't know how to describe it, the messy divorce currently taking place between Britain and the European Union. I don't know when that divorce will be consummated. Then 3 is the America First posture of administrations like the Trump administration in the United States. That is linked with the rise of populist, pro-nationalist parties in Europe. The 4th is the paradoxes of multilateralism. The 5th is the implication of unilateral multilateralism, showcased by how established and new major powers are creating individual platforms to engage with African countries. And finally, 6, the consolidation of global franchises in disorder and chaos with the proliferation of armed insurgency and terrorist groups. With this we will be talking about franchises like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, with the dislocation of the caliphate in the Middle East. Many of the former fighters have drifted across into other parts of the world. We've seen what happened in Sri Lanka recently. A formerly dormant, benign Islamic group suddenly was able to wreak that kind of violence under the franchise of ISIS. In the savannah and the Sahel, we know that many of such people have infiltrated and are active in many of the Islamist groups there. And so there's a summary that I could prepare and give to you, and I'm sure that you would enjoy reading the main report. It contains much more, it's much broader than I have tried to do, but I hope that I have done my best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency John Dramani, Mahama. That was a really, I think, powerful presentation of a report that I look forward to reading, with both very exciting, dynamic wave of hope, and at the same time, the sobering realities also on the ground. And for lack of time, I won't go any further, but I think that was a very, very interesting presentation. So, Excellencies, former and current presidents, ministers, ambassadors, distinguished guests, I think now we come to the close of our opening session, and I will ask the organizers, Brian, to come back and tell us what comes next. But I think you will agree with me that this has been a very, very thoughtful reflection from each of our speakers on the state of peace and security in Africa broadly, but also right here in the Horn of Africa. I think we are looking forward to an even richer continuation on the themes raised by the speakers in this opening session. So I would like to thank each of the speakers for their very, very thoughtful reflections, thought-provoking reflections. And with that, I also would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you.